Hey everyone, today we're going to go over Autodesk's Project Fractal. Project Fractal is a new web-based parametric design space that allows you to take models created in Dynamo Studio and generate a number of options based on the different slider values that are possible. In this tutorial, we're going to go over the limitations of Fractal, how to get it set up on your machine, and then some examples of how it can be used. Because Fractal is relatively new and web-based, there are a number of things that it can't quite do yet. This includes the following. There is an approval process for packages based on Python and C# scripting. There's currently no ability to link to the Cloud Rabbit platform for model referencing. There's also no ability to make HTTP requests to allow for data referencing or use of other services. There is no iterative select search method. Currently, you can only use pre-approved or trusted packages in Fractal. This is both for security reasons and to prevent any sort of malicious modification of the program. There's no method for viewing the performance of metrics of all options, even if they aren't sliders. And workspaces that produce a lot of detailed geometry may cause the performance of the program to suffer. There are two elements to Project Fractal. One is the actual web-based design space, and the other is Dynamo Studio, which is installed on your machine. Fractal requires a pretty specific Dynamo Studio setup. And take note, Dynamo Studio is different than the regular Dynamo plugin. Dynamo Studio stands alone, whereas the plugin only works within Revit as kind of an add-on. So if we go to the Getting Started page, they'll give you a list of the different requirements that are necessary, and links on how to install the updates that you need, places to get the software you need. It's pretty comprehensive and easy to follow. So you do need Dynamo Studio 2017, which you should be able to get if you log in with your student email as your Autodesk ID. Once you have that installed and ready to go on your machine, you do need to update it to Dynamo 1.2. They give you instructions here on how to do that. Essentially what that involves is once you have Dynamo Studio installed on your computer, you go down to your little tray, and there's the Autodesk desktop app that keeps track of all of the different updates that are required for the different Autodesk programs on your computer. This is where you would find the Dynamo Studio update that you need to install. I already have it installed on my machine, which is why you don't see it, but it would be near the top of your list. All you would need to do is click on the blue update button and it installs and you should be ready to go. Another component of developing for Fractal is getting your Autodesk ID whitelisted for the program. This involves a pretty simple two-step process. Essentially what you do, if we scroll back to the top, you click on My Workspaces, and it will bring you to a Dynamo launch screen that prompts you to sign in with your Autodesk ID. If this is your first time trying to sign in, you will type in your username or your email, your password, and it will reject you. This is perfectly normal. Once you do this and you get rejected, they essentially get notified that this is a software that you're interested in, and it starts the process of getting your account whitelisted for this program. So if we go back to the Getting Started page, it will tell you about the second part of this whitelisting process, and that is to send an email to the development team. If you click on this link here, it should either open up Outlook or some other email client on your computer, and you send an email to fractal.dev@autodesk.com with the subject whitelist request from whatever email account is attached to your Autodesk ID. Usually the whitelisting process takes about a day. It goes by pretty quick, so you should be able to have access to it relatively soon after starting this process. Now that we understand what's required for Fractal to run, let's go ahead and take a look at some examples to see what the workspace looks like and what Fractal is capable of. First, we'll take a look at the vent tower. So once you log in, this is the Fractal Workspace. Off to the right-hand side, you have a view of the current selected model, along with the different parameters you have set. In this case, we have 4 different sliders for tower kink offset, tower height, tower kink height, and base height. These can all be manipulated to different degrees, which will be reflected in the model on the bottom right. On the left-hand side, we have a list of the different generations of the design based on different slider values. And at the top, we have a graph showing all of the different options. So let's go ahead and clear out these iterations, and we'll hit generate and watch as it goes and generates the different options based on these values. So you can see as it goes through, it changes the different slider values, and the list of options to the left grows. All right, it's finished. It generated 81 designs for us. Looks much the same as it did before, but here we have the completed chart of all of the different possible iterations that Fractal came up with based on these 4 sliders. These can be sorted by creation time. If there is an error in the physical model, you can favorite different designs, or you can go based on the different slider values. You can also navigate and limit this list with the graph shown at the top, where you can set different essentially limitations on what you want to be shown. For example, we can say that we only want to see towers between the heights 200 and 250, of which there are none. So we'll slide it down and only look at towers between 200 and 150, presumably feet high. And this narrows down the list of the designs that it shows you at a time. So if we go back, let's look at a different example, which is the stadium example. This one has a little bit more complicated parameters. We have a total of 4 different sliders, a Boolean value, and then 2 integer values which can be set before the generation occurs. So let's go ahead, clear that out, and let it generate. So we can get a pretty good idea of the different number of options that are available just based on a couple of different parameters. You can limit the amount of different options it gives you with this variations tab. If you want to keep something locked, you uncheck it so that that value would stay the same during a generation run. And the number here essentially says how many different samples of values it's going to take into account. So as we can see with the different options that are generating, this graph up here begins to change and map all of the different options that it's giving us. So because this is going to give us 162 designs, I'm going to go ahead and stop it here. And we can take a look at some of the different options that it gives. as you hover over each of the different models, it'll show you on the graph above what the different parameters are for this specific model that you're looking at. So for this one that I've clicked on, we can see what the width, length, height, if it's filleted or not, the furthest distance. It'll chart all of these on the graph. And again, we can go ahead and take a look at only certain ranges of things. If we only want a very small window, we can go ahead and do that, and you can also do multiple values if we wanted to get really specific. Now that we better understand how Fractal works and the different possibilities, let's go ahead and open up Dynamo Studio so that we can learn how to export code from Dynamo Studio into Fractal. I made a simple little Dynamo program that draws a circle of an adjustable radius and an adjustable center point in order to better demonstrate this. If we go to File, down towards the bottom of the list there's an option to send to web. You click on that, it will bring up a dialog that will prompt you to enter in a title for the program and a description. As soon as you click upload, it'll start loading it up into your Fractal Workspace. Now we navigate back to the Fractal homepage, go up to the top and click on My Workspaces. Once you're logged in, it'll bring up a table of the different Fractal programs that you have, called the one I exported test. So if we click on that, it will open up the program that you created as a project Fractal Workspace. So we see the sliders that I had originally programmed in there, the one for radius, the one for X and Y. It's already done some iterations of different possibilities, which are very simple because I only have 2 sliders. But you can see how this could potentially be a really useful tool for some more dynamic parameters. But now you are all set to start developing in Project Fractal.